Alright, so today I'm gonna be reacting to the new album from Gunna, A Gift and a Curse. 15 songs here, 45 minutes, no features, which I don't know if that's concerning or not. I guess we'll see. There was one single that he released from this that I have heard. I heard it on my New Music Friday stream. It was Bread and Butter. I did appreciate the fact that Gunna actually had subject matter. He had something to talk about on that song, but it was a little bit frustrating for me because I found the sound of that song really boring. And I just hope that the whole album sounds interesting with him still having, you know, stuff that he's able to talk about a little bit. All right, let's get into this. Track number 1. Sounding like a dramatic intro.
Back at it. Smoking the sky, this shit starting to hit like it's cracking it. Back at it.
Loving those guitars in there, man. Just waiting for the drums to fully drop in, if they do. There's something I don't like about the fact that the drums aren't fully dropping in. It feels like we're getting all build up, no release. I'm supposed to be here making anthems, and some of you niggas know well enough. I like the song overall, I think. I'm just so unsatisfied by the drums not fully kicking off, you know? I guess it functions alright as a sort of intro to the album. As a song taken on its own, I don't think I'd listen to it all that much, you know, just taking it out of the album. Definitely one that's just here to be in the context of the album. I did like the sort of dramatic elements of the production, like the strings on it, the guitars. I think Gunna can actually sound pretty good over some more grand production. I think it makes up for the extremely chill sound to his voice and his delivery and everything. I think it had like a good hook to it. Gunna had a decent amount of energy on the song for Gunna. It's an alright start to it. So let's get into the next song right here. We have track number 2, Back to the Moon. Ooh.
If you don't vote with me, don't do what I do. Think you the one, but he really the two. Better get low when I hear that you cool. Let's get back to the basic, main reason they fake it, cause I done been fucking they hoes. Only reason you said it, cause the niggas said it, you sucking the dick in the toes. Got a crew, but I've been all alone.
Damn.
Been dropping the car from the back to the pinches of pieces and back of the rolls. You talking that ratchet with all of that cheese. We having some lemons squeeze. It ain't about the money, you got me discussing. You like it, then he gotta love it.
Oh my god, okay.
It ain't my fault that I had to fall out with you niggas, but fuck it. Ain't having time to be tongue. Resting with niggas, come see me in public.
Okay, I like that a lot. Good follow-up to the intro. I think the first 2 verses of that song, I was just feeling it out, trying to get into it a little bit, and I think the 3rd verse really took it home. Or no, well, technically it's the 2nd verse. Genius says it's the 3rd verse for some reason. So yeah, in that 2nd verse, like he was picking the flows up, it sounded really clean. It sounds a little bit inspired, you know? At least on this one song, it sounded like Gunna actually had something to talk about. Loved all the sounds on there. Still had some little guitars in the background, which was nice, sort of like, I guess, electric guitars. I'm wondering if listening to the first song, just running straight into the 2nd song, would be the best way to do it, because this is almost like the drum drop that the intro builds up to. I think it would make it hit even harder, just listening to it, like, you know, straight the way through. Track number 3, I Don't Know No More.
I don't know no more. I don't know no more. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know what to call. 10 months without no serve, ain't no more codeine in my liver. Why me?
Damn.
I got a big brother that love me, a stone cold killer. I don't know no more. I don't know no more.
That's a really bad start to the hook. I don't know no more. I don't know no more.
It's always been your plan, you just ain't had no way to do it. Remember we was cool, I gave you shit when I didn't use it.
Damn, the verses are fine, but I don't like that hook. It feels awkward. Production is still pretty immaculate. Smooth outro right there with the instrumental. That one, I just feel like the hook really took away from how good it was, because once again, I think it had solid production. I feel like the production throughout all of this is going to be pretty solid, because Gunna, I think, usually has a pretty good ear for beats. But yeah, the hook, the flow of it just felt a little awkward, really threw off the whole track. But I think the verses were pretty smooth. They had decent sort of like sing-rapping vocals throughout the verses, and that sounded alright. And again, he's talking about a couple of new things on here, saying took months without no syrup, ain't no more codeine in my liver, which is probably a good idea to keep it that way. Probably a good idea to you know, try and keep that going, Mr. Gunna wanna. But yeah, I just feel like the hook kind of really took away from that song. Let's move on to the next one, track number 4, Payback, but it's spelled like Maybach. We got some wordplay right here. Let's see what we got.
Bitch gon' feel like you payback, hating love to say that. I been smoking shit until in my large Maybach.
He's suffering from success.
Motherfuck the system, tryna give a solid sentence. I tell you the difference, you don't know the feeling. Think I ain't gon' touch me in that period.
What is he doing with his voice here?
I hate the government tryna tell us.
Oh my god, Gunna getting political? Okay, this one feels more typical Gunna.
Take a file and break it down and build it up. I thought that we was family, really never was.
Payback was a little bit boring for me. Some people will find it chill, and some people will enjoy that. I completely get it. Just for me, it feels a bit too on the side of sleepy music. Gunna sort of like doing this quiet, soft, kind of like slurred delivery. And the hook again was just very lackluster a little bit. Production was still fine again, way more like stripped back and low key on this one, but the overall song just didn't really do it for me. But let's see where we go on track number 5, Cash Shit.
Carrots on one of my opponents. Clarity beats, I see water. Talk that cash shit like I want.
I do like a good money counter sound effect.
Go out the brief, I got a freak. She haven't seen
more lively already, you know?
See me like young Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder catching strays again. It's always can't see me like Stevie Wonder or can't see me like Ray Charles.
I don't really care though. Had the barrel, man, free my bro Jeffro. Bet the business
is that him saying free Young Thug? Nice. Well, it depends if he's guilty or not, okay? He made good music, but he may have also ruined some lives. I like this one. It's lively, it's fun. The last song was a little bit too slow for me, a little bit too relaxed. This one, Gunna still has his naturally relaxed sounding voice, but the flow had some bounce to it. The beat had some bounce to it. There was some bounce to it. And I like that. W for Mr. Gunna. That'll be another one of my favorites from here. So let's get on to track number 6 right here. Fuck You Mean. Not a bad album so far.
Fuck you mean. Young girl don't want that back calling me splurge. Ride me jump right off the curb. Equal don't know what you heard. Crack up the phone.
Yeah.
Young girl don't want that, they working my nerves. I'm about to pause and serve.
Hold on, Gunna.
Bitch like a perm.
What? Okay, let's just the lyrics at the start of this verse. Young Gunna wanna, they working my nerves. Fine, good way to start it. I'm about to pour up some syrup. You just said you were trying to stay off it, Gunna. Earlier on in the album, like 3 tracks ago. Keep the cup down. And then after that, he said, fucking this bitch like a perv. Okay, Nav. I grab her S, then she called me a perv. Right, we're gonna ignore that. We're gonna ignore that because the flow is kind of bouncing.
And I ain't smoking no shirt. I'm in the beat with P Lady. Give her my only decision. Young girl don't want that back calling me splurge. Ride me jump right off the curb.
Yeah, that song honestly wasn't anything that crazy, but I feel like those little ears at the end of every bar and the fuck you mean chanting just really added something just like a little bit different to it, just like very slightly, and added a little bit of fun to the track and helped me get into the track a little bit more. So that one, it was enjoyable. Right now, I'd maybe say Gunna is still at this point my favorite Gunna album. But again, this is a first listen. You can follow me on albumoftheyear.org/CDTVproductions to see my reviews for albums with a numbered score out of 100 after I've listened to them a few more times and I have more of a final opinion, you know? Alright, we're gonna transition into it because you guys were saying to do that. So, track number 7 after this, Rodeo Drive. Let's go. Ooh. Right back on rodeo. Up in the Piazza, I'm beaming on narcos. Thinking I should take the Bronco. Told my little brother we pulling up, spanking these niggas that thinking we hoes. Yeah, Clutch said they wanna be known. Mad that we didn't put them on. This one's pretty fun, actually. I'm not mad at this.
Yeah, I got these niggas the maddest. I'm dressing up like a salad. Yeah, I see this. Yeah.
I'm dressing up like a salad.
So nigga won't talk out his side of his neck, I just let it be young, come and swallow.
Pretty good, honestly. Yeah, the past 3 tracks have been pretty nice. This one, I think it just had a slightly more upbeat and energetic vibe to it, and I enjoyed it. We had Gunna talking about dressing up like a salad or something like that, talking about spanking some neighbors. Just all around solid lyrics. In terms of how I usually feel about Gunna's music, remember I used to like hate this man's music. I used to find it to be the most boring thing ever, and I think this is way more listenable than a lot of Gunna's music used to be. This is not bad at all. So let's get on to the next one here. We have track number 8, Bottom.
A lot of you copy, here for the profits. I'm letting the energy build up. Let's show little niggas you break tough. Never could beat me, not the boy with the orange Lamborghini. Yeah, the one match the head to the beanie.
Hats and beanies, CDTV reference from Gunna.
I was broke, but I still kept it decent. No, we well, but decent. I doubled up. Whoa, whoa. Come on, rest up on the interstate.
Bottom was fine. It was an okay song. That was another one that I wasn't too crazy about. Bottom had some nice elements to the production. You know, there was the strings in there. I think there was maybe even some synths in there that were pretty nice. I like the snare on the beat, you know, a specific element of the drums. The snare was nice and snappy. I just loved that sound. But overall, it was one that was on the more chill end. And yeah, not enjoying those as much. Track number 9. P Angels.
I'm just got me, I'm back out the chain. Took a few lessons, that's part of the game. Sleep on the yacht for like 20 some days.
Was that beat like a... Hold on.
Sleep on the yacht for like 20 some days.
Was that the fucking fire alarm beeping when he was recording this? Just leave it in there, why not? That's experimental rap right there. People were saying in the chat that this is the best one on the album for them. I'm not really feeling it so far. Oh my god, the beeping, the fire alarm is in the hook. Yeah, this one's just dull to me. If my memory serves me right, this kind of reminds me of Drip Season Forever, and that album was really boring to me. Drums are pretty heavy, which is nice, but a lot of the time Gunna over darker instrumentals doesn't really work for me. That one was kind of weak to me. I like the fire alarm part of the song. That was kind of funny. He didn't want to do a second take. He did this take, and that was it. Track number 10, Born Rich.
Her baby's gonna be born rich. Yeah. Her baby must be born rich. Yeah. Her baby's gonna be born rich.
Please tell me that's the intro and not the actual hook.
Get so rich it only hurts your pockets. Live life. Pay when you move it feel like Monopoly. Her baby must be born rich.
It's another one where the hook feels kind of off.
Mixed speed and had a Panamanian, little baby. 2 kids and picks up his pay ready. Cash. She too basic, I'm Tom Brady. Pass.
That was a smooth little line. Born Rich is another one that I feel like I'll sort of forget about very easily. There's really not any horrible tracks on this, but there's definitely been some like lackluster songs or ones that are just really forgettable. And I think Born Rich falls into the really forgettable category for me. Nice smooth production, but Gunna was just super uninterested on that one to me, and I thought the hook was a bit stinky. Track number 11, Go Crazy.
All the portion didn't know where to go. Cross the street with my dog, yeah, the whoa. Take it L, niggas thinking it's gravy. Niggas gotta be crazy. Deep in the rap, this life it get crazy. Even when shit get crazy, geeking up by the start being sober. Like you keep pulling folks out the ditch that won't give you back shit, and you know that it's crazy.
Oh my god, yeah, the alarm. There is more alarm in this, you're right. Go Crazy was, you know, another one that I was like lukewarm on. Felt a bit sleepy. I think this second half is a bit more boring, but it's carrying its length okay for having 0 features on it, you know? Track number 12, Bread and Butter. This was the only single from the project, I believe. I have heard this one. Like I said, the sound of this track is just kind of boring to me, which made the fact that it did have some content on it frustrating.
Put that on my dead brother, yo. He talked so much I showed him mama.
God, the bass line on that is sick though.
Never put the nigga, always stay solid.
He never did what?
You wouldn't even believe I ain't have to watch my back. It's niggas really talking. How you think we think I snatched? Won't say it, but he know I still got real cutters, y'all. Never get no statement or agree to take no stand on them.
This is when it started to wear off me, I think, a little bit. The flow starts to feel really monotone after a while. The Way the Devil Dance? Immortal Technique reference? Wow, Gunna's going crazy with the references throughout this album. Parts of the instrumental on Bread and Butter are really nice. Like, I think the bass line was pretty slick on that. It gave it a very smooth sound to it. And there was some, like, cool, subtle melodic elements in the production. But it goes on for 3 minutes and 46 seconds. And I think Gunna really has a monotone flow on this one. He delivers it all in, like, a pretty similar way. And I think for 3 minutes and 46 seconds, it just drags on too much. And it makes the song lose all its replay value for me. Track number 13, Turned Your Back. 4 minutes long. Let's see what Gunna does to carry it for that length. We'll see. We'll see.
When it's fucked up, you up in the gave you everything you needed.
Okay.
I'm out here on my own. They throwing stones every day. My bitch in bed alone. I wanna sleep, but I can't. I pull apart the Porsche, she hold the keys. I let her hold the keys. And I'm right back on my grind. I ain't wasting no more time, no. This ain't just rhymes.
Ooh, the guitars right there are pretty nice.
I ain't blind, had to open up my eyes to see it all.
Yeah, there's a decent little atmosphere to that hook as well. The longest song on this album was not boring to me. Turned Your Back was not a bad song. I thought that was actually fairly enjoyable. I can compare that directly to Bread and Butter. Like, Bread and Butter was just slightly shorter than this song, but it didn't work because it felt too monotonous. It was like the same flow and delivery style for the whole thing. Whereas this one was even longer than that track, but there was like flows and deliveries that were a little bit different from each other throughout this track. Like, the track had its own distinguishable segments, and I thought the hook was pretty nice. It had a nice little atmosphere to it. Actually, one of the better Gunna hooks on this project. This one felt like a pretty solid track to me. Track number 14, I Was Just Thinking. And for the most part, the production hasn't taken a step down, despite the fact that some people aren't working with Gunna anymore.
Back to the block, no. I didn't cry cause it's feeling for my bro. And you know my mind, you don't watch that nigga grow.
This one felt like it was made pretty quickly, I think. There definitely still are some points on this album where Gunna doesn't overcome the pitfalls of being Gunna. Sometimes Gunna can just have a naturally sort of dull energy to his delivery and to his music. For some people it really works. You know, a lot of people love the chill vibe. Just for me personally, I think he can quite naturally sometimes have a boring aura. And this just felt like background music to me. And he's loving his oh-oh-ohs on this album. It was the whole hook on this one. The second half of this album wearing me down slightly, but not enough for me to say this is a bad album, because I don't think it's bad. It's just something that I'm gonna listen to. I'm gonna think to myself, this is pretty nice, but can I see myself coming back to this album in 2-3 years? Probably not. But in terms of the actual listen, sitting down to listen to it for the first time right now, decently enjoyable. Let's get into the last track here, track number 15. Alright, let's see if Gunna can rival Kendrick Lamar's Alright with his track of the same name.
I ain't sleeping through the night, but I hope we be alright. They let me out the chains on a suspended sentence. I done learned my lesson about paying attention. Wonder why this pain ain't killing my rhythm. They can feel what they feel, but I would never hide my scars. I done crossed some paths that I would've never thought I saw.
And Gunna's not like the smoothest singer or anything, but his vocals sound pretty clean on here.
This money and the fame brought me pain and it changed, but I know we be alright. Tired of the days just passed me by.
That was a nice closer to this. That was like, you don't often get emotional music from Gunna, and that one song there, Alright, kind of made this click for me. There's a few tracks on this where it felt like Gunna had something to say, but then there's a bunch of songs that feel like they're just put on here to pad it out to, you know, reach album length. I don't feel like there's been a crazy amount of emotion throughout this project when he's speaking on this situation, but right here he did, and I think it made for a really good, simple, touching song. Let's get into my initial thoughts on A Gift and a Curse by Gunna. What we'll do first is I'll give my favorite and least favorite tracks on the project. So favorite ones on here, I would say Back to the Moon, Cash Shit, Fukumean, Rodeo Drive, and Alright. As for least favorites, I Don't Know No More, Payback, Born Rich, and I Was Just Thinking. I'll say those were my least favorites from my first listen. It's a mixed bag of a project. In terms of like my overall thoughts on this, I would say as a first listen rating, which definitely isn't a final rating, like I said, follow me on albumoftheyear.org where you can see my final album ratings that I drop a little while after I hear them. I would say I'm probably sitting somewhere around a 5 with this, but like not even a 5 in a disappointed way, because that's pretty much what I expect with Gunna's music. In terms of where I would place A Gift and a Curse within Gunna's discography, I would say it is probably Gunna, and then this album, and then every other project of his below that. It's one of Gunna's best albums, but like one of Gunna's best albums is a 5 out of 10 for me personally. This one, he did have a little bit more content. I don't feel like he really put a crazy amount of emotion in it until the very last song with Alright, but there was some cool bars about it throughout the project. The subject matter maybe gets stretched a little bit thin, especially with Gunna not being like the most lyrical artist, but you know what? It wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. Some tracks were a little bit monotonous, but I expect that with Gunna. I didn't sit down and expect this to be an album I love. I just thought it was one that I would maybe enjoy a little bit, and I did enjoy it a little bit. And I do want to point out, I will give him props for carrying it surprisingly well without any features. I didn't expect it to quite be that way, but like there wasn't a lot of moments here where I felt bored out of my mind. So that's really good, because there's Gunna albums with features where I do feel bored out of my mind. And it wasn't the case here. And again, I don't think the production value of his albums have suffered with less people wanting to work with them right now. I still think a lot of the beats on here turned out really good. So overall, this album could have been worse. So yeah, hey, not too bad. It's about what I expected from Gunna, and sometimes that's not really a bad thing. It's just how it is. That's what I thought about Gifted or Cursed by Gunna.